Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, and once more by Tayte. And thank you all for joining us after that little cock-up with the intro. The button didn't play. Thank you so much, StreamYard. So we are going straight into it. No prelude. It's our monthly show, What We Watched. We'll also be answering any questions and going through the chat if anyone's commenting. So, yeah, that was weird. Tayte, have we ever just done an episode about an intro? That felt very strange.
I feel like back in the ancient days of SinSav, maybe there was some kind of technical issues happen. People like it's a Sunday evening. Come on, like things like this happen. But no, we're here to talk about films and TV that we watched this month, as we do on every single month of the year. We come together, we have a little chat about what we have watched, and we want to know what you've watched at home. So please put that down in the comments below as well.
Yes, absolutely. It is one of those where, have you had a busy November? Are you planning out for December? Whatever it has been, let us know what you're watching. TV shows, films, want to do spoilers? Maybe not for new things, but there's been a few big films. We've just had the biggest Thanksgiving weekend in box office history in America. Well, that's happening as we speak. It's still Sunday. So there is some big news sort of sticking with November. We've had Moana 2, Wicked, Gladiator. That's what's caused this record to absolutely blow up. There's been a lot of other new releases. There's been some TV shows finishing, some new TV shows starting. I guess technically I've seen it on December the 1st, so we'll be talking about that not next month. We'll be talking about it technically at 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and then again properly on Tuesday night in the UK. So do get involved. If you want to find out about other videos whilst we're working on, get us on social media, linktree.com/cinemasavvy, pops you through to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky, because we are now on there too. But I mean, I know we've not organised this properly. I'll be very honest, I haven't watched too much this month. I know we spoke about this before we went live. I've got mine up on the screen now. I've watched a grand total of 5 films. I think 1 TV show.
Yep, so I've watched 12 and 1 TV show. So
yeah, I mean, let's do this. It might be a bit short, but should there be any discussion points? I'm sure there will. We've had a very busy month. We've just rounded out the Harry Potter casting series. That's took up a good chunk of time, and there's been a lot of kind responses from people on those. So thank you to everyone who's watched them, who's commented about them. We've had some people asking us to do more Harry Potter stuff in the immediate future, which is very nice to hear. So if there are updates, we'll put them on our socials. The design was for 3 episodes for the series. We have said we will do more Harry Potter stuff in the future, so we will take note of all of that. But if you're curious, I'm currently going through a Harry Potter rewatch, saying that technically didn't watch a Harry Potter film in November, did in October, and I have today. So yeah, that's going to be spoken about.
What a way to start December, though, right?
I know. I mean, Star Wars and Harry Potter today, that's my life. I've been up since 5 a.m. That's when the alarm went off. It's been a long day. It's been a good day. But if I talk about those November films, because I'm actually flying through these, because I've just realised all of mine have had reviews already.
There you go.
On the 2nd of November, I watched Paddington 3, Paddington in Peru at the press screening. Lovely little film. Interestingly, they've just delayed the release in America again. So it was originally going to open in mid-January there. It's now opening on February 14th, which I thought was very strange to not delay it another month, but it's nice that we get stuff early. And I will say, I'm going to go on, not a tangent, but We Live in Time comes out in the UK at the start of January. It is getting a showing tomorrow night at the Cineworlds for an unlimited member screening. There are 5 press screenings for this film happening in the next week or 2. You live in America, it came out almost 2 months ago now. If you live in America, you can purchase it on digital. This is a British film with 2 British actors set in London.
Britain.
Yeah, it's there to be illegally torrented and viewed by everybody before its country can have it. And I think I've spoken about this a lot off camera. And I think I've said some things on camera that one of the real big issues in the industry now, I know it's not as simple as black and white have all the same release dates, but the awful gap from films being distributed in different countries, having different studios, doing X, Y, Z. I understand there's way more to it than just people saying it on stream, but if these films don't make money, and then the issues like, why didn't our film make any money? Maybe look at yourselves, maybe think, did we roll this out properly? And the UK market's pales in comparison to America. You know, it's a very small market in terms of, gross, but it's very strange that even for a film such as this, even if it had made a couple of £1 million or dollars, that makes a big difference. But by putting a film online, and I'm not saying everyone does this illegally, a lot of people do buy private, but it is proven with numbers, with box offices, with statistics, with piracy measures, that when those films go up in HD, people aren't buying them legally. A lot more do it illegally. And that is not what's led to piracy, but I've got even more of a tangent for later. I think that's what's leading to a disgraceful cinema experience, i.e., not the films, the people in the seats with the phones recording them. Sorry to go on a weird tangent. I was meant to be talking about Paddington, but it's a bit different, right? Because when films come out in the UK first, you don't seem to get the drama like you do when they do in America. And also, Paddington's British. Well, he's technically not, but technically, Paddington's a British property. And in tangent with that, Wallace and Gromit, we're getting it on Christmas Day here in the UK on BBC One, as it should be. America gets it in Netflix in January. That's totally understandable. But then it premiered in America and not in England, which I find very strange. But that's a minor gripe. But it's one of them.
Is that down to the fact that Aardman is owned by? Is it DreamWorks? Does DreamWorks own Aardman?
I don't know, but I still found it very strange that it premiered like a week or two after London Film Festival finished at the AFI. Granted, last year had Chicken Run at LFF. Wallace and Gromit is even more of a. I mean, I know they're both British, but
it's a bigger global brand. People know more about Wallace and Gromit than they do about Chicken Run.
Yeah. And I found it personally, someone that didn't go to LFF this year, I found it very strange that they instead had the premiere for Brick by Brick, the Pharrell Williams film, which also was available to watch online before it released here in the UK.
Yeah.
No one spoke about it. I've not seen it, have you?
No, I haven't. I'll watch it when it becomes, available online in other formats,
Exactly. And it's just sorry to go on a tangent, but I've got some real issues with distribution because guess what the second film I saw in November was? Conclave, which I saw on the 11th. The reviews ain't just gone out. It's legally just released here in the UK. It released on Friday, just gone the 29th. Again, Cineworld did a limited screening on the 11th. And I do like Cineworld limited screenings, but it tends to be these days for films that are desperate for word of mouth, or it's for films that have already been out in America for 2-3 months that your hardcore film fans might go see it early. Conclave, I thought was excellent. I know it's got the awards talk, and we're intrigued at the Edward Berger, his first one after All Quiet on the Western Front. It was a great film. I don't enjoy religious films. I don't care to have religion thrown down my throat. I'm not like a wild atheist or anything. It's not my genre to watch. I don't care particularly, but I never say no to them. And the logic of a fictional drama about the election of the next pope, and through this, we get loads of basically Game of Thrones in the Vatican. Loved it. Political mischievous everywhere. Absolutely love it. You've got the far right historic Italians. You've got the far left leaning liberals. Not to get into current politics, but it was something I didn't expect, and it was a very interesting film. And I think if you like stuff like Succession, like stuff like Game of Thrones, I recommend Conclave. Ray Fiennes is great in it. He's basically playing the Ned Stark. I'm Captain Morals, and I'm going to try and do this Conclave again. Released in America, I think in October. It's online now, and it's just released here in the UK in cinemas. Granted, it's released against Moana. It's probably not going to have very different demographic of audiences, but I think it's the sort of film where if there's nominations, it will pick up in a different matter. But again, it's a film like Conclave isn't going to be a big hit financially, but you're again alienating audiences by just chucking it, in the other country 2 months after your main one.
Yeah, it is frustrating. I understand that sometimes, I know that there has to be a reason why there's distribution at different times and whether there's rights around it and stuff like that. But I'd be much happier if it was a bit like how music is distributed. Music is just dropped on a day. People then have it available globally, and that's great because then everyone can have the same experience, or everyone has access to the same experiences. Films would work so much better if it was done that way. If it was a global release, everything's released on the same day, everyone has access to it on the same day. Then you don't have to worry too much about people spoiling it because they've seen it early, or the things with the audiences taking videos of it in the cinemas. It's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely stupid. And I mean, it'll curb piracy straight away if everything is released globally at the same time, because, you know, no one's going to, well, there's still a market for it, but people are going to be more willing to go to the cinemas and actually experience it because it's going to be available at the same time. There's no delay between different countries for it.
Yeah, and I think it was proven by the oh god, what was it in COVID? Warner Brothers, The Day and Day.
Mhm.
Every single one of those films essentially bombed financially because they put it online on day one. And obviously, HBO Max wasn't available here, but you're telling the general audience, let's say you've got a family of four. What would a four family cinema ticket be? Maybe $60. It's like 40 quid here in the UK for that sort of thing. Are they going to go spend $60 plus food, plus petrol, plus parking? You're looking at $100 now for a cinema trip.
Do you know what's
modern
really
pricing?
Actually, it's cheaper than that. Family ticket in the UK, I'm pretty sure, is about 25 quid because you get 2 parents and 2 kids. It's a lot cheaper than you think.
Oh, it's about 40 quid at Cineworld.
Is it? I swear I've seen one recently which was like 25 quid for 4 people.
Maybe like a matinee, but they at my Cineworld they like advertise it, and then they do like bundles of food, and the food's almost as much as
you might be in a different band to me, because for people who don't know, Cineworld in the UK have different bands of different tiers of like Cineworld where you can go to. So my local Cineworld here in Swindon, we're in band 2 or band 3. And I think the West End one is a separate band entirely. So if you go into West End in London, you have to pay a special price on top of that to be able to get into that. Same if I wanted to go to, say, for example, Cheltenham, where one of my mates lives, it's a different tier. It's a different pricing to what it is. So even though I have a Cineworld Unlimited card, my Unlimited card only covers me for the same tier as Swindon. If I go to Cheltenham, I have to pay extra to go and see a screening, even though I've got a Cineworld card. However, if I go to Gloucester and watch a film, Gloucester's in the same band as Swindon. So even though Gloucester and Cheltenham are only about 15 minutes apart, if I drive 15 minutes over to Gloucester, I then get free cinema. So maybe it's a tiered thing with different pricing and stuff like that.
I'm just on it now. So let's say hypothetically, my one, say if I was a family watching Moana tomorrow at my cinema, it's £35.96 plus booking fees. So you're looking at £38. That's 4 tickets. That's 1 adult and 3 children, or 2 adults and 2 children.
Let me find out.
So it's one of them where I get why they're there, but if you then add on the food, everything else, and you tell that family, hey, Disney Plus is $4.99. Do you want to watch it at home? Yeah, we'll say £55. There's nothing, it's just a cost of living crisis. And I think this is where, ironically, the family films are the ones that are making the most money now.
George, how much did you say yours was?
$35.96.
So mine is $25.96 for Moana tomorrow night. Big difference for different tiers. There you go.
£2.50 a ticket. But this is it. And if that was a West End one, God knows what that would be.
God, that was we're talking like 60, 70 quid.
Probably 45, 50. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And this is where we kind of go now with the cinemas, where again people do get put off, but ironically, it's family films that are performing better than the others did. Again, Moana 2 has been humongous. But yeah, let's move on from Conquer. Let's talk Gladiator 2. The film I loved, released here on the 15th, jam-packed cinema, was almost sold out on opening night at the IMAX. I avoided the press screening. I really wanted to watch it with my dad. He wanted to go. So it's his first cinema trip since June Part 2. That's sort of the extent of what we've been dealing with. And he loved it. It was just under 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It didn't feel like it flew by. It flew by, if I'm honest. I had a blast with it. I loved it. I haven't gone to see it again at the cinema, but my expectations for a Gladiator film were pretty low, a sequel, because the first one's so good. How do you do it? You bring in that cast, and I think they nailed it, and I really liked Denzel. Fourth one I watched a week later, Wicked. Really enjoyed it. Don't know anything about the musical. Seen Wizard of Oz, obviously, as a kid. Saw it last year for the first time in forever. Not seen Wicked the musical, not read the book it's based off. So I do not know anything about Part 2, but I did text, I'm not going to do spoilers, I did text a friend saying, I think this character is the father of this character. And I am correct. But I want that to be found out by myself, because I recognise something to do with an actor. Is
it technically a spoiler if the musical's been around for like 15 years at this point?
On the premise that we're a film and channel, I wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance, but I understand it sounds moronic.
What I can because I feel like without spoiling things, I could describe what part 2 is.
I think I know that part 2 runs adjacent to the Wizard of Oz. That's pretty much all I know.
Part 2 is basically the Wizard of Oz from
It's happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And I've also heard that, well, it's not what I've heard. Speculation is because part 1 is 2 hours 45, which is longer than the actual musical. Part 2 may not only adapt part 2 of the musical, the second act of the musical, but it may run further in tangent with the Wizard of Oz.
I get the feeling, because this is more of, I'm not going to.
And there was a rumor of a Dorothy actress being cast as well.
I'm not going to spoil anything from the actual musical or from the film or anything like that. But what I will say is, the musical within theatre circles, part 1 is way better than part 2. Before the interval, part 1 of Wicked is generally regarded as like 5 out of 5, and then part 2 is like a 4/3.5 out of 5. So a lot of people have different gripes with it. I definitely have my gripes with part 2 when watching the musical last year. There have been rumblings that they might change some things around just to not appease, but kind of fix the different plot points.
And it's a book, right? So because the musical is an adaptation of the book, correct. And if they want to, they can lean into the book a little bit more. That's
absolutely, and that's what I've heard as well. And the musical definitely took a little bit of a sidestep from the book to change some things. I think they might go back to, even though they're adapting a book into a musical, possibly back into a book into a film again. It may work out well. I mean, part 1, I'll talk about when we go for it as well, but part 1 was phenomenal. Fantastic film. Like spectacle.
I've watched one film since then. You ready?
Go on.
Home Alone.
Brilliant.
I watched it on the 28th. Five films in the month. It's been a very busy month. Top of that, TV. The Penguin.
Very quickly, George. Very quickly. Why did you watch Home Alone? Is there a video that we'd like to?
There's the Christmas series returns, so we've got a little bit of schedule switch around. With a week's notice, Skeleton Crew is now coming out on. If you live in America, it's coming out on Monday at 6 p.m. PT, which is 2 p.m. UK time on Tuesday. For no reason. I'm just going to leave it at that. For no reason. I'm not complaining. It's a day earlier. Then every other episode will be the very normal Wednesday morning slot here in the UK, Tuesday night in America. And that was 1 week's notice to pull the first episodes back by 1 day. I don't know if Thanksgiving sprawls into Monday. I know America's mental with their holidays in the sense that no one gets annual leave that's paid for. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. It's that backwards. But Thanksgiving is like one of the bank holidays, but not the Monday after. So I don't really understand why it's been pulled back by a day. So what we're doing with that is we're going to do Skeleton Crew live on Tuesday night for the first episodes, UK time. And on Monday, tomorrow, we'll drop the last Mount Rushmore for the year, which is the Christmas films one, which then sets up our Christmas film series for the year, which is a lovely little way to round out the year because it's been a very busy few months. And December's the chill month. There's a Star Wars show every week. Great. It's a family entertainment show. It's more for children than for adults. It's not going to be deep war investigations. It's going to be an adventure. And then we're going to have Christmas films where we're snuck up with films we've grown up with, seen many times over the years. So it's a nice way to round out the year. But yeah, Home Alone is going to be the first episode that's going to drop this Friday the 6th. That's my films. Home Alone, great. What more can
we go.
TV-wise, I saw The Penguin.
Probably
the best show of the year. I loved every second of it. It was perfect. Right down to the last detail, as Homelander would say. I am very excited to see what's going to come next in Matt Reeves' Batman universe. And without, because I know you've not seen it, I'm skirting around spoilers. What this show has been able to do in terms of, hey, it's a sort of sequel, but not a sequel to the Batman, while setting up the Batman sequel, whilst also working perfectly as a standalone show. I now know two people, well, technically three, because one of those two is two people, but I know three people who have watched this series without watching the Batman. And they've loved it as well. They've not been confused. You don't really need to watch the Batman, and they did say that. And believe them, but watching the Batman does enhance it. But I would then say to those people, hey, when you get to the finale, just remember this is a Batman property, and that's not a spoiler. He's not in it. That's not me spoiling it, saying he's not in it, but
no.
As we said, right, it's setting up the Batman Part 2. But when you watch the Batman Part 2, if you haven't seen the Penguin, it doesn't knock in. It's like, oh yeah, Batman Part 1 finished like this. This is Batman Part 2. So it's one of them where it was a very, I don't think, if I'm honest, the show had any right as being as good as it was. Unbelievable performances all around. The writing, I know the showrunner, I know that Matt Reeves exec produced a lot of it. He helped write a lot of it. He's very much involved. Obviously, he wasn't doing the day-to-day. The showrunner, project, I've forgotten her name, did a great job, and I'd imagine now she's going to be very busy and in demand, because before then she'd been a bit, not all over the place, that's a bit rude, but she worked on a lot of different things without really having that not creative vision, but she hadn't shown a show in its entirety like she now has, and I think she'll be in demand. And I'd love for them to do a second series, not of Penguin, but pick another Batman character to do in between parts and then chuck it to the big screen. So that's my month of November. It's next month. It's going to all be basically Christmas films, new releases, and Harry Potter films, isn't it? I'm already predicting that.
I mean, I'll be watching some interesting different films this month because, as everyone knows, my Decembers are my catch-up month for everything that I've missed throughout the entire year. So I'll be going through, especially towards the end of the month when I head out to Austria, I'm going to be watching through a lot of films, TV shows, such as The Penguin, which I haven't actually watched through yet. Catching up and making sure that I'm on track with those things going into the new year, so that I don't have new films thrust upon me too early. I guess I'm going to talk about my films and TV shows, but I'm actually going to start with an interesting point as well, because I watched one TV show this month, and I could make the argument that that is also the TV show of the year. TV show that George hasn't seen, and I haven't seen The Penguin, so it'd be interesting to see how that goes in the end. But I watched Arcane Series 2 this week, even. The final episodes dropped. What a phenomenal series it has been. What I really like about Arcane is it never shied away from the identity it set in the first place. It always pushed the boundaries of animation in a way that it seems like we've gotten out of the rut of the Disneys and the Pixars and the DreamWorks putting out the same kind of animated films all the time. We're getting fresh new visual styles presented to us through animation, and different takes and different ways of presenting animated features. I mean, for this series, there's an entire plot line or entire thing centered around one character who basically he has some time controlling abilities that is centered around 4 seconds. So some of his frames and some of his scenes in the show are set at 4 frames a second, which is fantastic. What a brilliant way of utilizing kind of filmmaking to show off a character in that certain way and how they may be able to see life and see things. But it follows on from the first series, which had critical acclaim. This series has been phenomenal. Not a single episode that has disappointed. It's developed the characters in different ways from the first series. It's introduced new characters in, and it's ended. It's done. 2 series are out. I know that's the Netflix special of doing 2 series and then completely canning it. But this was a decision taken by the showrunners that the story was only ever going to be 2 series to tell the story they wanted to tell. They're now going to move on to different things within the same universe and tell different stories with different characters. I don't like League of Legends, but like you don't need to know. Never played it.
I think I've got friends that have, but I've never. To me, it's in that World of Warcraft that it's a PC game, right? That's an MMO type thing, and they're not my sort of things. I know a lot of people enjoy them, a lot of friends enjoy them, but for me, it's just like.
So it's like it's like a MOBA brawler. So it's like there is so many characters that they could go into, and they've just gone and selected these specific ones and told their story, but it has nothing to do with the games at all. They've just gone and taken the characters from the games and gone, hey, we're going to give those guys a story, and it's so well done. It's so heartful. It's so visually striking. The action scenes are phenomenal. The music is great. Just everything that goes into it. Everything feels like it's been thought out. A lot of this series is kind of back to front and forwards backwards. They play with time a lot because of events that happened in the first series. But it all comes to a great conclusion. with some absolutely top tier, phenomenal writing. Just brilliant written lines for characters, brilliant moral sentiments for characters, great conclusions to the story. And now I guess they're going to go to somewhere else within the universe. But, the animation company that did it, fantastic. I haven't seen them do anything else. So, they're going to hopefully enter into the game a bit more. But I'm guessing this is the gold standard that's been set by Spider-Verse, because that seemed to be the catalyst that sparked all of this kind of animated rerun. Best way of describing it is this entire show is animated in a very similar style to Spider-Verse Part 2, with a lot of the color and visual flair of the first part with Gwen Stacy. And then it adds in different animation styles and different things throughout each episode to convey different story points. An entire scene drawn in charcoal, hand-drawn in charcoal, just to symbolize a funeral. An entire scene that is like dripping with color, or using different frame rates, or just using different visual cues to come in. It's spectacular. It's on Netflix. Go and watch both series. You don't have to have any knowledge of the games. I definitely didn't. I couldn't name a single character from League of Legends until I watched the show. I watched the show, and now suddenly I'm like, wow, I don't care about the games at all, but I want to see more from this universe. And I'm glad that it's over, because it finishes as a perfect series. Just done. 10 out of 10. Absolutely amazing. As far as films were concerned, however, I watched 12 this month. I'm going to go through in a weird style here. I'm going to go through first the Ridley Scott section, because I've watched a lot of Ridley Scott films this month. So we did our Ridley Scott Mount Rushmore, so I wanted to go back through and watch a couple of Ridley Scott films. So I rewatched Thelma and Louise, which I absolutely loved. I watched for the first time Kingdom of Heaven, which was a fascinating watch. Interesting historical epic, great soundtrack, great score. Does make me kind of, long for the days that we got those kind of historical epics back on the screen. Those really, really long, 3 hour, 30 plus, slog it out, kind of like tell the full story kind of epics. I then watched Gladiator 2 in cinema. Loved it. Great film. Surprised me at how good it was. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but some stand-up performances in there, especially Denzel, who's probably going to win an Oscar for it. I wasn't expecting Paul Mescal to actually have that much charisma on screen, because I'd never seen him as a charismatic kind of character, but it came across a bit more in this film, I feel.
Yeah, I liked him in it. And the problem is he's surrounded by Pedro Pascal. He's surrounded by Denzel Washington. And I think he's very good. You're right. The charisma, and I don't think he's a two-dimensional character, but I think it's a very traditional character journey, and he's great in the action sequences, but I'm not fully there with it on the dramatic scenes. I know he can act. I know he's been in a lot of TV shows. All of the Strangers last year, and he is on the up and up. Everyone wants to work with him. But yeah, you're right.
I still haven't seen After Sun. So
yeah, of course. That's what he was nominated for, wasn't he? And it's an interesting one. I liked him in it. He was better than I thought he would be. I still think he's very good in it. I just think the people around him. Pedro Pascal's underused, but he's great when he is used. And now you've seen it. If we do spoilers, it's about in America now, I think, a week. The switcheroo of, hey, in Gladiator, the bloke that bought him to make him slave was actually a really good guy, and the person that killed his family was still a terrible person. I love the ideology switch around. And guess what? The guy that bought you is the fucking villain and is terrible and is using you to get what he wants. And actually, the guy that killed your family, he killed your family, but you know what? He's doing it as Emperor's instructions, and he's going to overthrow them because how terrible they are. And he's married to your mom. I liked it. I really liked it. Again, I think it's the Gladiator sequences are very cool and very fun, but the strength of the film is the politics, not the actual.
100%. 100%. It always is with those kind of films. I mean, you look back at kind of, like I said, the Kingdom of Heaven. Kingdom of Heaven doesn't, get better in the battle scenes. It gets better in the talking scenes, in negotiation scenes, when people actually act. I love films that have battles. I love films that have those things. But, when I think of Gladiator, I don't think of the fight scenes. I think of the speech that Gerard Butler makes. I think of the politics behind it. I think of those things first. So that's where those films strive best. And yeah, it's nice to see Ridley Scott still making decent films. Which, I mean, I capped off my month yesterday by watching The Martian, which, you know, first time I've seen it since I first watched it. Great. Yeah. Still stands. Still have no idea how it was nominated as a comedy, but, you know, for the Golden Globes. But apart from that, yeah, great watch. I'll probably rewatch it a little bit sooner, actually. I really enjoyed the film. I forgot how good Matt Damon is in the film, just acting by himself. And of course, we have things with the support cast, but really, he does carry that film quite heavily, and he does a really good job of it. Going back into the month, we got a weird section here. I watched Jojo Rabbit and Inglourious Basterds this month. No theming, I just watched those two films. It just so happened that those films were on. I wanted to see a comedy, we threw that on. I wanted to see a war film, we threw that on. But it happens like that sometimes. Great films with very kind of similar subject matters, taken in a very different way. Both could arguably be deemed as weird, dark comedies in a sense that both films have great humor in them, even though they have also horrific actions happening in them. And they're very relevant films, even if one is a twisted sense of history and the other one is actually a twisted sense of history. They're both kind of the same film. But watch both of those. I also rewatched another war film. I rewatched Starship Troopers, which I love. I love Starship Troopers so much. It's such an easy watch. It's such a great film. I might go on and watch, because I've seen Starship Troopers 2 once. I haven't seen Starship Troopers 3. And I didn't like Starship Troopers 2 the first time I watched it. But I've heard Starship Troopers 3 is more like Starship Troopers 1. So I may give those a rewatch next month.
I've only seen the original. I like it. I haven't seen it for a long time. I've seen it a couple of times, but you know, it's like it's really. But my granddad had it on DVD, so whenever we go to Spain, they had like a DVD thing in the house. And Starship Troopers was it. It was just a random film to have, but I liked it. The bugs and a lot of that cast has gone on to be great as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we get into some new films this month. So I finally got around to watching The Substance. My word. What an interesting film that is. I didn't know what to think of it. I enjoyed the film. Like, it's a fantastic kind of body horror spectacle in every sense of the word. Even if you only get the horror elements kind of towards the end of the film, the horror is from the situation that she kind of places herself in. Brilliant acting from Demi Moore, who I hope she gets a nomination. I really do. I hope it's in some way it gets recognized, because she was fantastic in her role. Dennis Quaid was just wicked and vile, and Margaret Qualley was brilliant as well. It's just it's a core of 3 members of the cast, and they all nailed it. The ending was very weird, but
do it remind you of the ending of the Absorbable episode of Doctor Who?
Yeah. But yeah, no, very weird, but no, I enjoyed it. I watched The Wild Robot, which great animation. I enjoyed the film. I know a lot of people are talking about it being a runaway kind of candidate for the best animated feature. Jury's out from my end, at least. I need to see the other films first. I don't think if I throw it into any other year in previous years, it doesn't win. And that's why I'm not completely convinced by it so far. I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was a great film, but it's not convinced me yet. So I need to see what else is going to be nominated before I can say, yeah, it's the clear runaway winner. Because if it goes up against some big hitters that I enjoy more, then, you know.
There's a film that won best... Did it win Best Film at London Film Festival? Memories or Memoir of a Snail. That's one I've heard of.
I've heard
I don't know anything
yet.
about it. I recognise the name because I saw it as animated. I was like, oh, wow, this won something. And then I would imagine, because it's Pixar, it's Disney, I'd imagine you get obligatory Moana and Inside Out nominations, although Moana 2 has been humongous financially. The second biggest opening weekend of the year worldwide. I believe, I know it was a TV series. It's been basically cut down into a film. Obviously, it's going to make money like a TV series would on Disney+. I have heard very mixed things about Moana itself, the film. But I'd imagine Inside Out 2. I really liked it. I thought, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know Pedro Pascal was voicing a fox. I know Matt Berry was in it, which was great.
Matt Berry the Beaver.
Yeah, it's perfect. Like, he wants to voice the Beaver. Okay, get him in the Narnia reboot. But he's one of them where
could you imagine him as Mr. Tumnus?
Do you make a great Mr. Tumnus? You can thank Charlie for this.
Go on.
Adam Driver, if he cut his hair.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's got the ears. That's a really weird thing to say. So was not Vinnie Jones. Ray Winston was in the one we grew up with, right? I swear Ray Winston was in there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe who knows? Maybe they will. But Matt Berry. Get Matt Berry more. I think there's a beaver. That's who Ray Winston was. He was a beaver, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to distract.
We'll see what else gets nominated. I'll always do my animated rundown of the year, so we'll have a look at what goes into that. Then we go to what is not slowly. I don't like horror films. I just don't like horror films. They don't satisfy me in any way. I like psychological horror films. I don't like jump scares. I watched Smile 2 last month, and I thought Smile 2 was a great critique on, or at least a delve into depression and how it eats you up and how it just jumps out at you at all different times and everyone around you is smiling at you. Love that concept. Smile 2 is a better film on every single level, and Smile 2 is a brilliant film in general. I wasn't expecting it to be that good, but it is absolutely it's a brilliant horror film. There's not many jump scares. In fact, I think there's only one jump scare, and it didn't even get me. I was expecting it. The film itself really delves into that kind of, what if it happened to someone famous? How would it affect them on a global scale? And it's just so well played. It's a solo performance basically by Naomi Scott, and she nails it.
I've heard she's amazing in it. Everyone that's seen it has spoke about Naomi Scott and no one else in a nice way.
I mean, I couldn't name a single other actor or actress in the actual film because it is just her. It's not like the other film where it flicks between different perspectives. It looks into how the smile monster works or anything like that. It just shows what she goes through and nothing else. And it doesn't need to. The first film explains it perfectly fine. Now you've got the concept nailed down and everyone knows what's going on. You see the smile monster. This is, I don't know if there was a spoiler. You see the smile monster once in this film. Once. And that's it. Like, the rest of the film, it is just the experiences that she has. It's just how she sees the world, different people around her, the psychological torture that she puts herself under. It's brilliant. And the ending was just so satisfying. I loved it. Like, as a horror franchise, it takes some risks and it works on that level. I can't wait to see what they do next. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Smile 3 because it's going to happen because this film was a success. So I genuinely cannot wait to see what they go with in this franchise, which I could not believe saying that watching a horror film. But Smile 2, great follow-up to the first one.
I've not seen the original. I remember the marketing for the original, which was there'd be like baseball games, and everyone was the creepy smile. Did you remember it?
Yeah, people just sat in the background.
In the crowd.
Yeah,
yeah, and I know Jack Nicholson's son is on the poster and is in the sequel, which is because he's got his dad's smile. Basically, great, go for it. But yeah, I've heard really good things about Naomi Scott. I think she's an underrated actress. I think when the Aladdin film came out, she was good as Jasmine in it, and she was good in the Power Rangers film she was into. I think she could deserve to be a lot more. And a lot of other things. And I think she's getting her colours of this. And I've seen a lot of people say if it wasn't a horror film, people would talk about her for an Oscar this year. Now, I've not seen it. I can't judge off that, but that's what I'm seeing as well.
But it's weird. It isn't even really a horror film. If anything, the first film's definitely a horror film. The first film has some really heavy horror elements, a lot of jump scares, some real big visual cues. This film doesn't really have many visual cues in the same sense. It's more of like a thriller that maybe has like one horror element in it at one point. That's it. The rest of the film is just psychological torture. Like, I can't even think of any other film that I could describe it to. I guess it's like kind of, I don't even know. It's like Inception, but like Bad Dreams Only kind of thing. that's how it works. You don't know whether you're dreaming or not. Like throughout most of the film, it's just that feverish kind of tempo that comes with it. But I wouldn't even it's very difficult to categorize as a horror film because I wasn't horrified by it. I was really entertained by it. But not only that, but there wasn't any jump scares or there wasn't any specific horror moments that stuck out for me. It was just purely good acting for the situation that you were placed in. Creepiness, sure, but if anything, it would be like a thriller. So, very, very interesting. I enjoyed it at least. But we move on to my final film of the month, which was Wicked, which I've already kind of spoken about. I think part 2 is going to be possibly not as good as part 1, but part 1, wow, what a spectacle. Brilliant. I mean, my cinema was full. I went middle of the day, middle of the week, and for some strange reason, it was full. I wasn't expecting it to be this successful. I don't think anyone was, but
I've seen some people were talking months ago it was going to gross $1 billion. I laughed at them. Now, I don't think it's going to gross $1 billion. But I think it's going to be very high come the end of the year, and its second weekend numbers are massive. I mean, musicals famously they might have humongous opening weekends, but from memory they
Greatest Showman didn't tail off. That's the only one that I can think of that really didn't tail off.
A lot of them have legs. That's the word. They have legs. And they don't open high. They just have great legs. And I feel like this is going to do that.
Wicked has great rewatchability purely on the fact that there will be a part 2. People are going to go back and see this film because they'll want a refresher going into it. People want to see
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not seen the stage play. It's been one of the most successful musical stage plays in recent time. Some people believe, apparently, now I can't quote them this, that they reckon Wicked was one of the reasons Disney started doing their live-action villain films, which I find really
I can
see interesting that Wicked was the caveat for that, because Maleficent was the first one they did, wasn't it? But I really enjoyed part 1. I knew nothing heading in. I know nothing, but I know the sequel runs adjacent to Act 2. I guess the musical runs adjacent to Wizard of Oz, but I couldn't sit and tell you this was a great song, that was a great song. I've not listened to the soundtrack. I really enjoyed the film, but I don't listen to musicals. They're not my thing mainly. But having a sold out, it was the busiest my cinema has been since Barbenheimer. That's not me overstating. June, the cinema was packed. It was sold out. It was heaving. I get it. I have not seen the people buying every single popcorn tin, every single cup top, everything, every moment, everything was selling out. Massive groups of girls going all dressed up in pink. The cultural side of it is huge, and I didn't realize. And I'll be really, but I thought the marketing was crap until a month ago, and then what they have done, they have nailed. I think they've gone for the Barbie route. It's brand deal after brand deal after brand deal. It's adverts for Pixel. It's adverts for this. It's Robinson squash here in the UK. Get the pink flavor, get the green flavor, and I think what industry could learn a bit more from. It's not all how to do marketing, because we're not marketing execs. We can't tell how, but you can't force a phenomenon. You can try and build one, and they've done it, and they've done it well. And Universal have nailed that marketing. I've got to give it to them. And I saw someone moaning on Twitter, give us a credit scene, give us a trailer for part 2. I'm like, no.
Don't need it.
What's happening now is films that are getting trailers too early are the ones getting in trouble, because everyone's forgot about by the time the film comes out. Save it for as late as possible and below. I mean, part 2 is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Sorry, easier done than said, because you just, as you said, it's the part 2. Part 1's been a success. Everyone's going to go watch Deathly Hallows. Everyone want to watch part 2.
I'm going to go and say it. This isn't a spoiler, because because we're talking about part 1, I don't think it's a spoiler, but ending it on the biggest song from the musical.
Yeah, that's not a spoiler, that's fine.
Which is exactly what they've done on the stage show for years and years and years. Ending it on Defying Gravity, ending it on that note, and then just cutting to credits. Phenomenal decision. That leaves people wanting more. That keeps that song in your head after you've gone. I've had Defying Gravity stuck in my head all week since seeing the film. I've had Popular stuck in my head all week since seeing the film. I've had Dancing Through Life stuck in my head. The songs like that, where it's just kind of, well produced, well acted, well sung, well put together, well presented, they will stick with you. And part 2 is only a year away. People are going to rush to it. people are going to absolutely rush to it, and it'll definitely have Oscar success this year. Best original song, Defying Gravity, done easy. Like apart from that, everything else is going to be up in the air. But like, I don't know. I think part one was excellently done. I really hope that they make the right changes to part two to make it really good.
And I mean, I guess they, in the nicest way possible, they have to, because it's a 2 hour. The part one film is longer than the entire musical. So, and my understanding is they didn't add new songs in part two. Apparently, has already been confirmed to have new songs, which is interesting because you think, oh, part one, let's go for the. We did a new song. Please have our Oscar. It's almost like they're going to really go for it because they're talking about Oscar nominations for part one, and it's going to get a load of nominations. I couldn't tell you about wins; just it's too early for me to care.
I think I could tell you now. It'll probably get nominated for best original
things like
song,
costume design,
set design. I guess score, cinematography maybe could get one. Maybe Ariana Grande for best supporting actress.
I would like to see her nominated. I thought she was amazing. I've never seen
I mean, her and Demi Moore. Like, personally, I think
Demi Moore will probably win and should win.
I don't know. I don't know. Ariana might win it purely out of the popularity vote, but honestly, both of them will.
They'll wait till part two. They'll wait till part two.
They'll wait till part two. But this is the thing. Like, Dune Part 2 came out this year. Dune Part 2 was great, but I preferred Dune Part 1.
Really?
I did, yeah. I'll go ahead and say
that's a hot take.
It is a hot take. I preferred Dune Part 1. Dune Part 1 stuck with me more than Dune Part 2. Granted, I haven't rewatched Dune Part 2, but on first impressions, I preferred Dune Part 1. Now, do we think that Dune Part 2 is going to win as many Oscars as Dune Part 1 could have? Is the question.
That's a good one because it released in March, not November. So outside, literally, as Oscar season finished.
Do you think that they delayed it because in that same argument, Part 2 is going to win Oscars because Part 1 was successful? But
no, because now what's trickier is Part 1 came out the right time to get, well, not right time, but like it won six Oscars, 5 or 6 Oscars or something. I can't remember how many, but it won a good chunk. Because it was meant to come out in November last year and they couldn't market the film, that's why it got moved to March this year, which I understand, because then the cast could promote it, which was the right thing, because it ended up making, just under 800 million or something. Now we know they are doing Dune Part 3. Well, not Part 3. They're doing Messiah.
Dune Messiah,
which I think is all but dated for December 2026, which is right up for the November 2026, maybe, which is right up for the Oscar conversation. I think it'd be naive to rule out Dune Part 2 now. I think from a technical level, it's above pretty much everything else still from this year, by a million miles above everything else. It should be winning Best Director, but I think because now Dune Messiah is confirmed, they're going to hold off somewhat.
But that's
I hate the politics of it, and that's the problem. It's like Lord of the Rings, right?
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Am I right in saying that the Lord of the Rings trilogy won 18 Oscars in total? But 14 of them are from one film and 4 from the other. Realistically,
Fellowship should have won.
Yeah,
firsthand.
But also, this is what I love saying. People go to any hardcore Lord of the Rings is my life person and say extended editions or theatrical. Well, theatricals are nowhere near as good. They're not this. They're not. Okay, but it's not the extended editions that won 18 Oscars, is it? It's the theatrical cuts. I'm getting involved. And Denis Villeneuve won't do extended editions of Dune. He could. No. He's shot more, but he won't. Because, like Nolan, the film is my film. That's not me dissing Lord of the Rings. Although, just for argument's sake, I would love it if each Dune film won like 6 or 7 Oscars, because then it would end up having the most. But different conversation. It's a good question. That's been one of my big things Oscar season. I'll be honest. I'm not saying it's been a really good year for film. It's been a very good year for film. But what this year has lacked is the top tier films. Now I'm hearing Nosferatu is a contender now for film of the year. Now we're not getting it till New Year's Day. But the Americans have had a few screenings and everyone is on not just the hype train. They are saying Nosferatu is on the next level.
Could you imagine Nosferatu winning the Oscar though? Like,
probably not, because it's missed awards, it's missed the festival
Yeah.
run. But I am optimistic for Nosferatu, not to win stuff, but I'm really hopeful. That's to me the next like big film. Lord of the Rings: War for the Rohirrim. I think it looks awful. We got invited to the press screening. There's a big the premiere. They've had to invite the original cast to get some noise and movement around it. Sonic's going to be huge heading out at the end of the year. There's another big one, Mufasa. It's like Ollivander. I'm curious because are people going to watch Mufasa? Because Moana, no one was talking about until a week ago, and now it's just gone and made 450 million opening weekend or something outrageous. Like, will everyone flock to The Lion King? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting month ahead to see what's going to come out, who's going to do well and what. But all I care about is Nosferatu, and that's my New Year's Day sorted. If there's not any football, I need to check that out. But I'd love to go to a press screening, but apparently no one's getting into them here, which is very strange.
Yeah.
It's a tricky time of year with Christmas to get stuff like that organised, but I am sorry to turn to chat about next month, but I am excited for some of the big ones.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess we're going to start to get into award season anyway, aren't we? You know.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It's gonna sneak up on us, isn't it?
We're gonna have to get rid of the Nolan poster. Although, have you seen the cast for Nolan's new film?
It's building.
And have you seen the predicament on the news from yesterday?
No.
Christopher Nolan would like to re-team up with Robert Downey Jr. after, of course, Oppenheimer winning him his Oscar, having an unbelievable pressure, and I would say the best performance of RDJ's career. But it's a bit tricky because Robert Downey Jr. has signed on to do 2 Marvel films that are going to shoot back-to-back next year, which he's going to get paid $95 million plus box office plus more. But Nolan wants him in the film, but no one knows if it's going to be possible. Now, I'm picturing Willem Dafoe. No one says no to me. But I am genuinely thinking, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, unless it's a small role, like a Michael Caine role. But the Nolan cast is fucking outrageous. For anyone that hasn't seen it,
he now has the draw. I know that
he's got Tom Holland.
He had the draw earlier in his career. Yeah,
he's got Tom Holland, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway. Oh my god, I've forgotten her name. Lupita Nyong'o. I feel like there's 1 or 2 more that's been added in recent weeks. It's Matt Damon, of course, was the first one attached to it. It's still under wraps, the plot, but it's going to be shooting heavily next year.
I heard it was there was rumors going around as a readaptation of a 1950s spy TV show or something like that.
There are many rumors. There's a rumor that it's a helicopter film. There are rumors it's a vampire gothic horror film. There's plenty. I'm going to call it the spiritual sequel to Tenet. Oh, Rob Pattinson's been cast in it as well.
Yeah, Rob Pattinson's in it, yeah.
That cast is outrageous, and I cannot wait to see. And I'll say this about Tom Holland. So the rumors are, I don't know if we spoke about it in the stream last time or one before. Spider-Man 4's got its release date. Its release date is a week after Nolan's new film. And that basically meant from day one, Spider-Man's going to move because it's not going to get IMAX releases because of a Nolan film. IMAX will say Nolan gets priority, not even New Marvel. The rumors are that Tom Holland is so committed to Nolan's film, they may even delay filming Spider-Man for him to do Nolan's film properly, which I agree with. And I think Tom Holland's hit the point. I know I've criticised him a lot. He really needs a great non-Spider-Man film. And I don't think he's had that.
Does he see it as, and this is what some people might see Nolan as now, a ticket towards an Oscar nomination and recognition?
I don't want to say Oscar nomination. I think what it does for... I don't want to say Tom Holland's career is in crisis. It's really not. No. I think it's really unfortunate that outside of Spider-Man, he probably hasn't hit the levels I think he's capable of. I'm not saying that as an actor. I think it's the projects he's picked haven't worked out for him. Meanwhile, Zendaya, I'll bring them in because they're obviously partners together in real life. And again, Spider-Man co-stars, right? The projects she is doing are absolutely perfect. And I'm not saying there's rivalry that's a bit weird, but in my head, there's this weird analogy that I think Tom Holland needs now a big hit that's not Spider-Man. And I'm not anything rude, like get his career back on track. He needs to go back on track. It's a bit like we had a chat over with a friend about Adam Driver. I'm like, Adam Driver wasn't a bad run of films, but it was, hey, Michael Mann's making his first film in like a decade. Would you be in it? Yes. Hey, Coppola's doing his first film. Would you be in it? Yes. He is picking the
Or
project,
turds,
the
yeah.
direct, yes, and no one can be criticized for that. The films haven't worked out. It's quite simple. Whereas Tom Holland, he's been working with the Russos, who we worked with before, and their non-Spider-Man work is, or sorry, their non-Marvel work is not as good. And I think Tom Holland's because he wants to be not again. I'm not saying no one takes him seriously, but it's going to be impossible to rub off playing Spider-Man. But a bit like Adam Driver, right? He did Star Wars. Yeah, he'll always be Kylo Ren, but he built up enough repertoire to do non-Kylo Ren stuff. Daisy Ridley, whilst doing Star Wars, didn't get those roles. However, Daisy Ridley has done an awful amount recently and is really starting to turn her career around. Don't want to compare it to Daniel Radcliffe, but there's those, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And I think Tom Holland's in that now for Spider-Man, because again, I get why RDJ is going to 2 Marvel films, 95 mil, locked in. The films are around his character. Whereas I think Tom Holland's got the power to say, hey, Spider-Man, you can be delayed. As long as it comes out in between the 2 Avengers films or the Doom one, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a week after Nolan. So
No.
I'm cautiously optimistic for him. I said I do bash him a lot. But I think I'm very curious by that cast. Very curious. I think it could be a banger.
So am I. But that's all our films cover for the month then.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Not many films talking about, but a lot of news. It's been a big news, and I guess there'll be. I think because obviously last year had the strikes, then everything being filmed this year was stuff announced before the strikes. We're now getting into the directors are making films again. Directors are writing films, and they're going to be casting films, and God knows what happens when the Harry Potter casting starts up. That's going to be like a bloody monthly segment, unless they just do a wild Star Wars 7. Hey, here's the entire cast, enjoy type message. But yeah, it's going to be one of them. So everyone watching at home, please do comment again with what you've been watching this month, your thoughts on the films we're talking about, anything you're looking forward to seeing between now and the end of the year, anything you've missed out on. We'll be back, as I said, tomorrow with a Mount Rushmore Christmas films as we move into December. On Tuesday, we'll have a Skeleton Crew spoiler discussion in the evening. In the middle of the night, there will be a spoiler-free review for episodes 1 and 2. So there'll be a couple of Skeleton Crew things. Then they'll be going up each Wednesday, and then we're going to have the Christmas Classic series every Friday and Tuesday. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening between now and Christmas. A bit more chilled out, a bit more laid back. Get yourself some Christmas classics. Let us know your favourite films, and we'll have a look at those too. So that's everything from me. Anything else I've missed?
No, don't think so. Just follow us on our socials, and we'll let you know when the videos are coming out.
Absolutely. So once again, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.